Hey guys, what's up? Today is Wednesday, April 17th, and I am off work. So I took the rest of the week off. I just needed a break. And what happened at work, that's just another story for another day. But anyway, so right now, I just want to talk about what happened this past Monday. Most people know that I am a musician. I have played for different churches. So what really upset me was that during rehearsals, I came and I asked this person, can I play a particular song? And that's the only song that I would like to play. Everything changed when I came in to the actual, when I got there, everything had changed. She said, instead of playing on the piano, the main piano, they had set up this keyboard and it's not a real keyboard. I mean, it sounds distorted. It's cheap. And that's something you would use at home and not in a church setting. But anyway, so when I got there, she said, can you just play on the keyboard and let me play up here? And I was like, but that's not what we agreed to. And she said, oh, well, I feel awkward, just standing up singing at a microphone. Like, okay, you the soloist. I mean, that's what you do. You get up and you sing. And so, I just was like, okay, I'm not about to be your patsy. Like, that's not how I work. If I ask you something and we come up on an agreement about it, then that's how it should work. Like, you are your word is your bond, basically. So instead of arguing with her, I just sat down and I said I didn't want to play anything. She even asked me, oh, do you know this song that she did not practice? And she wanted me to come cover for her. I'm like, no. Like, first of all, I didn't have time to learn the song. I had other stuff going on. And then I'm not finna cover for you because you got the position and you refuse to do the job. At least do the job well. So I just took my seat in the choir stand and I had a good time. I worshiped, did what I was supposed to. I sang. And when the music was over, I went home. So to back it up a little bit, the reason why I'm so angry is because this person and her father do things, just take over. People just sit back and let them do whatever it is that they want to do. They say nothing about it. I mean, if you're phenomenal at what you do, then you can do that. But if you half step and, don't have it together and, you can't do that. Ever since I've known this person, they just come in and they tell you in your own house. When I say house, I mean your church. They come to in your house and say, oh, let me play. And, I'm kind enough to let them, have the piano. And then when you come to their house, they don't want you nowhere near the keys. And I'm just like, well, what's up with that? Like, you're not that great that you got to be always sitting up at a piano. Matter of fact, you need to go back and get a lot of help. But anyway, a little bit of a backstory. So the first time I met this person was in 2013. So her family, like everybody that I knew was like, oh, you remind us so much of her. And she's about your age. And we even graduated from the same college. Like, who knew? Who would have thought? The reason people say that is because we are both plus size, full figure women. We're both in our 20s, a brighter complexion, stuff like that, just physical similarities. Anyway, so the first time I actually met her was at a funeral. And, I was playing the piano for the funeral. And then all of a sudden, her and her father approached me and was like, oh, let us play the piano. Like, nobody informed me that you're going to be sharing the job with somebody else. She just approached me and said she wanted to play. And I was like a few weeks in playing at that time. So I'm like, well, sure. And so, she played a couple of songs and then I just noticed how her father just directed her and told her everything what to do. And then I'm like, oh wow, I can be his daughter because I've even told him to sit down. Me and my dad have a totally different relationship, and I love my father. I do think I'm a daddy's girl and stuff like that, but he allows me to be myself. And I'm pretty much an independent person anyway, so that wouldn't work. So, in backtracking, she made me get up from the piano, or she asked me to get up. I got up, and then they invited me over to their church for a practice session. And see, that was my first warning sign. Whenever people usually invite you and they're like overly nice, that's a sign right there that something isn't right. So they invited me, trying to be cordial and nice and things like that. But what I really feel they were trying to do, oh, let me see what her skill level is, and they were just trying to scope me out. So they got me over to that church and we had a practice session, and he was like, "Oh, let me make sure I help you, baby, so you can go back to your church with something." And so that was over, and then he wanted to continue like having our practice sessions and stuff like that. The difference between me and her actually is a lot of differences. I read music, so I tend to pick it up a little faster, and I don't know how she learned her music, to be honest with you, because she doesn't read, she doesn't play by ear, and I don't know how she making it. I guess she read chords or something. That was the first time. Well, she was in college at this time, so with her being in college, she was back and forth like in town, and then she would go back to school, come back, stuff like that. So she wasn't like necessarily like here all the time. And then we met up again, and I saw her singing in the conference choir, not playing, but singing in the conference choir. So there was actually another musician over a conference choir. And he's very good at what he does. He teach parts, he can play, just really provide a worship service. The next year, I got with that same musician, and he allowed me to play a song for the next conference. So I sang in the conference choir, and I got to play For Your Glory by Tasha Cobbs. Uh, he allowed me to teach parts, um, and I played while he directed. And I thought that he even sat back and just watched me, you know, be me. And I thought that was cool, and I just really thank him for allowing the younger generation to learn and just teach the younger generation, because I mean, that's what it's about. Like you also have to provide the way for the next generation to step forward. And if you don't teach us or the people behind you, then how will people know? So I really was inspired by that. I was really inspired. The day of our concert, he introduced me as the musician at. He had introduced what church I played for, who I was, and this we did the song. And her father was there because he's a pastor, and I think he didn't like that because ever since then, she's been playing. She's kind of been the at the forefront. The next time that I bumped into her was when we did Holy Week services, and we did it with this guy. I guess he was a pastor at a local church, and it was terrible. He, I, I remember him teaching a few parts, and we trying to figure out what songs to do. We had about three musicians on keys. I guess we had a drummer. I don't know. But anyway, it was a mess. It was definitely not one of the better performances that I did. So they had me on that same keyboard, the cheap keyboard. And I'm just compensating, doing what I need to, following along. She was on the main piano, and we had an organist. Well, we're two younger musicians. Like I'm like a year in or a year or two in, if that long. And he was asking us, like, do y'all know the song? And I'm just like, we should be asking you. You've been doing this for years and like you following behind us. And I'm just like, this is terrible. Okay, so we got through that performance. So this little side note about how people act and you know that they're not necessarily right, like you shouldn't be friends or anything like that. Her father asked us all out to lunch and he paid and stuff like that. And we went, somewhere like Chili's. And after we were done eating, we were walking to the car. So, side note, I have an issue with my feet. And she pointed that out. She was like, "Oh, what's wrong with your feet?" Or like she asked the question, "Are they blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I just feel like, you don't do that in front of everybody because then all the attention is on you now and something that you don't want everybody to focus in on. I was very self conscious about that. I was very self conscious about that. And then, you just notice when people say little um, rude remarks. So after that, I met her again. We ran into each other again. And this time, she was placed over the district choir. We were preparing for a Holy Week service. It was actually last year, and they asked me to play. I came. They never tell you what you about to play. Like, I read music. I need you to tell me the title of the music so I can go find my sheet music, and I need you to tell me, am I teaching parts? Am I like what have you? But anyway, I showed up. Um, she did a couple songs, and she did not teach parts. She had someone else to teach parts for her. The second thing, the other musician, he brought in the majority of the music, and the songs that he picked were really good. Like I still play those songs to this day, and like when you hear something that you really like, you want to learn it. So I ended up learning this one song called "Safety" by Lucretia Campbell. I love that song. I still play it today. Like I play it on the piano. I play it in my car. And so I learned the entire song from beginning to end. I wrote the chords out and stuff. And the next rehearsal I came back playing it. And like she's over it. She's the uh, musician in charge. She took a back seat. She went and sat in the choir stand behind the choir, and I'm like, "No, sweetie, you want to be over this. You need to sit at this piano and teach us. You were supposed to be leading." But she took a break. Like during rehearsal, after we had been an hour and a half in, she went to the back of the choir stand and she sat down. So I was like, well, since she's not gonna play, I'm gonna play. So I had learned that whole song, loved that song, and then the next thing I know, she come tapping on my shoulder talking about, can I see them chords? So she took a picture of the song, and then next thing I know, rehearsal, she playing the song. So I just ended up sitting out, and I just let her have it. This year, she was over it again, and you know, I had left the church that I was playing for because I decided I wanted to do some more independent things. And so I didn't know anything about the musical, but I ran into her in Walmart like I always do. And so I walked up to her and I spoke and say how things been going and stuff like that, or how's work and usual stuff. And I think she mentioned to me or I asked, But anyway, she told me that Holy Week service was about to start, and I just had to throw in there, oh, invite me. I wouldn't mind singing, being a part of it. And so I really didn't have, I already know how things go. So I didn't really intend on playing. I wanted to more so sing. Rehearsals started again, just really badly. She didn't know the first song that she was teaching. I mean, why start with a song that you don't know? If you're in charge of people, you're supposed to come with a plan, with about, I don't know, 5, 6 songs to start off with, ready to teach parts. Because this is 7 o'clock. We start in rehearsal. We got to get up for work in the morning. So she started rehearsal, and she asked one of the choir director at one of the local churches to come and teach parts. She didn't know the song. He had to pull it up on his phone for the parts because, I mean, if you can't give him the first note in the song, how is he supposed to teach parts? We got through that, and then I think she taught a couple songs she knew, and then the other musician, he taught us one song, and then the next rehearsal, I had decided that I wanted to play a particular song. Everybody knows the song, uh, one of those worship songs that's real popular, and I really wanted to play 2 or 3 songs, but I had a lot going on. I had an audition that I had to get ready for, and that was crazy. I had to prepare for this audition, so I knew I had limited amount of time. Plus, I had work, so I learned this one song, and I asked her. I didn't try to sneak and do it. I didn't try to move her off the piano or anything. I said, "Hey, there's a song I like, and I would like to play it for Holy Week services." And she was like, "Oh, sure, yeah." And I was like, "Okay, well that's cool. While you singing, I'll back you up on the keys." And she agreed to it and everything. Every rehearsal, I played that song. The day of the actual performance, she just threw out there, "Oh, I got this keyboard so you can play the keyboard." And I'm just like, all I asked for play is for one song. Every time you come to my church, you move me off my piano and I allow you to play. But I can't play one song at your church. I feel like that's very disrespectful. Uh, her dad put her in this position to, you know, be in charge, and she's really not ready for it. I mean, you don't want to teach parts. You didn't know the lineup of your music. Um, People ask for direction. You can't give it to them. So I mean, why be in charge? You could be like the assistant musician, or you could just play a couple songs and then sit down. I mean, if you sign up to do a job, you have to do it. And part of being the director, you have to actually give direction. People complain about, oh, the church is not growing. I mean, when you have people being manipulative in the church, things just being disorganized, you don't expect for the church to grow. And, I have no problem with this girl. I think, keep doing your thing and stuff like that. But I just think that it's disrespectful for you to move people out the way and people to be at your beck and call when you don't have that qualification. The only reason why you're in the position that you are in because your father just have this kind of dictatorship spirit about him. And yes, I have no problem with calling a pastor out. If you wrong, you wrong. He has this dictatorship quality about him, and he knows people in power, and so he pulls strings and he just has his way. And people do that all the time, and I just can't sit back and just let that continue to go on. So she's basically her daddy's puppet. Whatever he tells her to do, she does it because she wants his approval. And it's at the expense of other people. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, I try to be a better leader because I am a teacher, and I just want my work to speak for itself, be a positive influence. And I don't think it's wrong with if you know somebody that could get you somewhere. I mean, definitely. But if you're going to be pushing people out the way, then you really better be able to back it up. That's all I have to say. I will see you guys next time in the vlog. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk about what went down in Miss Taylor's classroom. So, see you guys next time. Bye.